The night was colder than usual. The market had grown quiet, its bright lamps fading one by one, leaving only the pale glow of a broken moon. Shadows stretched across the ground, and the dusty wind carried the smell of smoke and hunger. In one dark corner sat a woman with silver eyes and thin, trembling hands. Her skin carried strange blue patterns that glowed faintly, marks of her alien race. Beside her, curled like a frightened animal, was her little daughter. The girl shivered, her small body covered only with rags that could not keep away the cold. The mother looked at her child and bit her lip until blood touched her tongue. She had nothing left to give. No coins, no food, not even a blanket. All she had was herself. And tonight she decided to use even that. When footsteps echoed nearby, she forced herself to stand. Her voice was broken, but she spoke anyway. "Just one night with me," she whispered, lowering her eyes so no one would see her shame. "Please, just one night. In return, take my daughter. Give her a blanket. Keep her warm." The people passing by slowed down, some staring with cruel smiles, some turning away in disgust. A fat merchant laughed, shaking his head. "No one pays for something so broken," he said. "Keep your offer for the trash heaps." Another voice chuckled from the dark. "She thinks a child is worth a blanket? Pathetic." The mother's heart broke a little more. Still, she begged. She lowered herself to her knees on the cold ground. "Please, she is freezing. She will die before morning." The girl, half asleep, whimpered and pulled the ragged cloth tighter around her body. The crowd moved on, leaving only whispers and laughter behind, and then a shadow paused. A man stood there, tall, silent, watching. He was not like the others. His shoulders were broad, his coat torn from travel, and his face was sharp with lines of exhaustion. He was a human. The mother stiffened. She had heard of humans. Some called them monsters, others saviors. No one agreed. But in her world, humans were rare, strangers that could not be trusted. The man did not laugh. He did not sneer. He simply looked at her, then at the child, then back at her again. The mother lowered her gaze, shaking. "Do you accept? Just one night with me. Please, take care of her." The man crouched slowly, coming down to the girl's level. His eyes softened when he saw her trembling. He took off his worn jacket and gently placed it around the child's shoulders. The girl blinked, surprised at the sudden warmth, then gripped the fabric tightly, burying her face into it. The market grew quieter as others noticed. Some muttered, "Strange human." Others whispered, "Is he serious?" The mother's heart pounded. She waited for him to speak cruelly, to demand her price, to take her away. But his voice was calm. "No deal," he said. Her body froze. For a moment she thought he had rejected her, thought he would walk away like the others. But then he added firmly, "No one should have to make such a deal." He looked at the girl again and brushed a lock of her hair aside. The child did not shrink from him. Instead, she leaned closer as if sensing something different in him. The mother's lips trembled. "Then why are you—" The man stood, pulling the girl gently to her feet. His hand was steady, strong, but not cruel. He looked at the mother next. "Both of you," he said. "Come with me." The words cut through the night like fire through ice. The mother stared in shock. What? No. You don't understand. I have nothing. Nothing to pay you with. Nothing to—" "I didn't ask for payment," he interrupted. His tone was sharp but not unkind. "Come now." The girl clung to his hand tightly, refusing to let go. Her wide eyes filled with something her mother had not seen in months. Hope. The mother hesitated. Fear screamed in her chest. What if this was another trick? What if the human was worse than the others? What if leaving the corner meant losing everything? But when she looked at her daughter, wrapped in his coat, holding his hand with trust, her heart broke again. For her, there was no future. But for the child? Perhaps. She stood trembling and followed. The market faded behind them. Whispers chased their steps. Mad human. Foolish alien. He will regret this. But the man did not look back. His steps were firm, his grip steady, and the night's cold seemed less bitter with each pace. The mother walked behind them, her thoughts spinning. What did he want? Why did he help? What trap was waiting ahead? Yet, as the child glanced back at her, smiling faintly under the oversized jacket, the mother felt something unfamiliar stir in her chest. It was not safety. Not yet, but it was the smallest spark of something she thought she had lost forever. Hope. The night road was silent except for the crunch of boots on dirt. The human led the little girl by the hand, and the mother followed a few steps behind, her heart racing faster than her feet could move. Every time the girl looked back at her mother, her silver eyes were glowing softly under the moonlight. She seemed calmer now, holding the human's hand as if it had always been hers. That sight should have comforted the mother, but instead it burned her with fear. What if he wanted the child later? What if his kindness was only a mask? The human finally stopped. His figure loomed tall against the moon, and in the distance a small cabin appeared. Smoke rose from its chimney, and a faint golden light leaked through the cracks of the wooden walls. The mother froze. She had expected him to take them to another market stall or into some hidden alley where men laughed behind shadows. But this looked like a home. The man opened the door with a push, and warm air spilled out, carrying the smell of firewood and soup. The girl gasped softly, her hands tightening around his coat. Inside, a fire burned bright in a stone hearth. A table stood at the center, and shelves were stacked with jars of dried food. 2 rough beds lay in the corner, covered with thick blankets. The girl rushed toward the fire, her hands stretched out to the warmth. She laughed, just a small, broken laugh, but the sound echoed like music through the room. The mother stood at the doorway, unable to move. Her body trembled. It felt like a trap too perfect to believe. The human turned to her. "Come in," he said simply. She hesitated, then stepped across the wooden threshold. The warmth hit her like a wave, and tears burned her eyes. She hadn't felt heat like this in months. The man took off his boots and hung his coat by the door. Then he filled a bowl with soup from the pot on the fire. He placed it on the table and slid it toward the girl. "Eat." The girl looked at her mother nervously. The mother nodded, though her hands shook. Slowly, the child lifted the spoon and tasted. Her face lit up with joy. She began eating quickly, as if the food might disappear if she didn't. The mother watched, torn between relief and suspicion. Her stomach ached with hunger, but she forced herself still. Finally, the man turned his eyes to her. "You too," he said, pouring another bowl. She swallowed hard. "Why?" "Because you're starving," he replied. Her hands clenched into fists. "You don't know me. You don't know what I am. Why help us? What do you want?" The man leaned back in his chair. His gaze was steady, not cruel, not greedy. Just steady. "What I want," he said, "is for a mother not to sell herself for a blanket. No one should have to beg for life." Her breath caught. His words cut deeper than laughter, deeper than cruelty. They felt too sharp to be lies. The fire popped, sending sparks upward. The girl yawned, her face softening as sleep pulled at her eyes. She leaned against the human's chair, holding his coat around her like a shield. The mother stared at that picture, her child leaning on a stranger, safe for the first time in years. Her throat closed and tears rolled down her cheeks before she could stop them. The man noticed but said nothing. Instead, he rose and pulled one of the blankets from the bed. He draped it over the girl gently, careful not to wake her. The mother whispered, "Why? Why would you risk anything for us?" He paused for a long moment. His eyes seemed far away, as if looking at something only he could see. Then he said softly, "Because I remember being cold once, and I remember wishing someone would help me." The words hit her like a storm, simple, human, yet powerful. Her people had called humans selfish, dangerous, violent, but this man had refused her body, her deal, her shame. Instead, he gave her child warmth. The mother pressed a hand to her mouth, choking back sobs. The man poured water into a cup and set it on the table for her. His voice was firm but not unkind. "Eat, drink, rest. No one will touch you here." She stared at him. Suspicion still whispered inside her, warning her this could not last. But hope, the dangerous kind, had started to bloom again. She sat slowly, lifted the bowl, and tasted the soup. The warmth filled her chest. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to breathe. The human sat back down, silent, watching the fire burn. His decision was already made. He would not let them return to the market. And though she didn't believe it fully yet, the mother realized one thing as she looked at him. This man was not like the others. This man was human. The morning sun rose slow and heavy, painting the market road in pale gold. The mother awoke with a start, her body stiff from the floor where she had curled beside the fire. For a few seconds she panicked, forgetting where she was, until she heard soft breathing. Her daughter slept on the bed, wrapped in blankets far too big for her, one tiny hand clutching the human's coat like a treasure. Her face was calm. No hunger lines, no shivers, peaceful. The mother blinked back tears. She had not seen her child sleep like that since the day their village cast them out. But peace frightened her more than hunger. She turned quickly, her silver-marked skin glowing faintly in the light. The human was already awake. He stood near the doorway, fastening a belt of tools and checking the rifle slung across his shoulder. His movements were sharp, practiced, like a man ready for trouble. Her breath caught. You're leaving?" He glanced at her, then shook his head. "No, we're leaving." The words sank in like stones in water. Her heart stuttered. "We?" "Yes." He adjusted the strap across his chest, his voice steady. "The market won't forget what happened last night. They'll come. They'll want you back. Both of you!" Her stomach twisted. She knew he was right. In the markets, no kindness lasted long. Men hated when someone broke their rules. Still, the thought of leaving everything, again, was unbearable. "But where would we go? I have no people, no home, nowhere left." He opened the door a little, letting in the sharp smell of morning air. "Then you walk away," he said simply. "From all of it." She stared at him. The way he spoke, as if it were easy, as if walking away from chains, from hunger, from years of cruelty, was as simple as stepping out a door. Her daughter stirred, waking slowly. The girl rubbed her eyes and sat up, blinking at the fire. When she saw the human standing there ready to leave, she jumped from the bed and ran to him, hugging his leg tightly. "Don't leave me," she cried. The human bent down, resting a hand gently on her head. "I'm not leaving you. I said both of you come with me. And I keep my word." The mother's knees weakened. No one had ever spoken to them like that, not as property, not as beggars, but as people. The child looked back at her mother, her voice soft but urgent. "Please, Mama, let's go." The mother shook her head, fear tightening her chest. "You don't understand. Humans are dangerous. Everyone says so. If we go, what if he—" She stopped, unable to finish. The man stood, his gaze meeting hers. "You think I want something from you?" Silence. The mother swallowed hard, unable to answer. "I don't," he said. His tone was low but sharp, like steel against stone. "I didn't take your deal last night, and I won't today. What I want." He paused, then looked at the girl smiling up at him. "Is to see her alive tomorrow." The mother's throat closed. That was all? Just that? Her people would never believe it. Neither would the traitors. But her daughter's eyes were full of light, and that light was something she could not destroy with doubt. The human turned back to the door. "You can stay here. Wait until the market finds you. They'll take you, sell you, break you." His voice hardened. "Or you can walk away. With me." The choice lay heavy between them. The girl tugged her mother's hand, pulling her toward the door. "Mama, please. Let's go." The mother trembled. She had begged strangers in the dirt, humiliated herself for scraps, traded pain for survival, and yet here stood a man who offered her a choice. Her lips parted, her voice almost a whisper. "If I walk with you? What happens then?" The man's answer was plain. "Then you're not alone anymore." The word struck her deeper than any blade. For years, loneliness had been her only companion. Now, one human stranger was asking her to let it go. She closed her eyes. Her body shook once, then stilled. When she opened them, she nodded. Slowly, carefully, but she nodded. The man said nothing more. He just opened the door wide. The morning light poured in, bright and sharp, chasing away the cold shadows of the cabin. The girl ran forward, clutching his hand. The mother followed, her heart still drowning in fear, but carrying for the first time a spark of something else. Hope. As the three of them stepped into the road, whispers rose from the market far behind them. Men pointed, eyes burning with rage. The human took them. He stole property. He'll regret this. But the man did not look back. His steps were steady, his shoulders strong. He walked away, and with him so did they. For the first time, the mother realized she was not walking toward chains. She was walking away from them. The road twisted through broken fields and dead trees. The human walked at the front, his rifle steady on his back, his steps firm. The little girl held his hand, skipping sometimes despite the dust under her bare feet. Behind them, the mother followed, her eyes darting at every sound, each crow's cry, each rustle of wind. She had spent years expecting danger. No path ever led to safety, and yet here she was, following a stranger, a human, away from everything she knew. By the time the sun dipped behind the jagged hills, the cabin came into view. It was small, hidden between rocks and tall grass built from wood and stone. Smoke rose thin and gray from its chimney. The girl gasped. "Mama, look!" "A house!" The mother swallowed. Her heart told her it was a trap too perfect. But her daughter's eyes shone bright, and that light was something she could not take away. The man opened the door. Inside, the fire glowed warm against stone walls. Shelves lined with jars, tools hanging neatly. 2 beds with thick blankets folded on top. It was simple, but to the girl it looked like a palace. She ran inside, dropping the human's coat only to grab a blanket twice her size. She twirled, laughing, wrapping herself in it until she looked like a ball of cloth. The mother froze in the doorway. The warmth hit her skin, almost painful after years of cold. Her chest tightened. It was too much, too kind. She whispered to herself, "This can't last." The human glanced back at her. "Come in. Door's not going to hold the cold by itself." She stepped inside slowly, her bare feet sinking into the wooden floor. The fire crackled, filling the silence. The man placed his rifle on the wall, then set about cooking. He chopped dried roots, poured water into a pot, and soon steam rose with a smell so rich it made her knees weak. The girl sat by the fire, humming softly, her face glowing. The mother kept her distance, leaning against the wall. Her arms were crossed tight. Every time the man moved, she studied him, how steady his hands were, how he didn't look at her with hunger, how he didn't even glance when she shifted nervously. When he finally set bowls of stew on the table, he nodded to her. "Eat," her throat tightened. She remembered the market, the way men had smirked when she begged. Food always came with a price, always. "I asked you nothing last night," the man said, reading her silence, "and I ask nothing now. Feed your child, then feed yourself." She hesitated. The girl didn't. She leapt forward, spoon in hand, blowing on the hot stew before eating greedily. Her small face melted with joy. "Mama, it's so good." The mother's eyes burned. She forced herself forward and took the other bowl. Her first bite made her body shiver. Warmth spread through her chest, something she had forgotten food could do. The man ate in silence. His eyes stayed on the fire. When they finished, he spread one blanket across the bed and set another on the floor near the fire. "She sleeps on the bed," he said. "You take the blanket. I'll keep watch." The mother's heart stumbled. "You're not—" He shook his head sharply. "I said I don't want anything from you. Don't ask again." The words were not cruel but final. The girl climbed onto the bed, snuggling deep into the blanket. She looked at her mother, eyes half closed. "It's soft, Mama. Can we stay here forever?" The mother's breath caught. She stroked her daughter's hair until the girl drifted into sleep, her small body finally safe. Only then did she dare whisper, "Why are you doing this? Why us?" The man stood by the doorway, watching the dark fields outside. His hand rested on the rifle. His answer came without looking at her. "Because no one else did." The mother trembled. She hugged herself, unsure if she wanted to cry or run. The fire popped. Sparks danced upward, fading into the chimney. In the silence, she realized something terrifying. She wanted to believe him. But belief was dangerous. Belief had betrayed her before. She lay down beside the fire, pulling the blanket tight. Her eyes closed slowly against her will. Before sleep claimed her, she glanced one last time at the man standing in the doorway, a silent guard. His shadow stretched long, steady, unmoving. For the first time in years, she slept without fear clawing her chest. And for the first time, she wondered if perhaps, just perhaps, humans were not what her people said they were. The night stretched quiet, broken only by the crackle of firewood and the distant cry of night birds. Inside the cabin, the little girl slept soundly, her small chest rising and falling beneath a heavy blanket. Her face looked peaceful, as if years of hunger and fear had been wiped away in a single evening. The mother could not sleep. She lay on the floor near the fire, her blanket pulled tight, eyes fixed on the human figure standing near the door. He had not moved for hours. Rifle slung across his shoulder, arms crossed, he stared into the darkness outside like a man expecting an enemy at any moment. Her stomach twisted. What kind of man kept watch all night for strangers? Finally, unable to bear the silence, she whispered, "Why are you doing this?" The man didn't turn. "I told you already." "No," she said sharply, her voice trembling. "You told me no one else did." "That's not an answer." "Why really?" The fire popped. For a moment he didn't reply. Then his voice came low, almost reluctant. "Because I know what it's like to be cold, to be hungry, to wish someone, anyone, would care enough to stop." Her eyes narrowed. "Humans don't speak like that. Not the ones I've seen." At that, he finally turned. His gaze met hers, sharp and unflinching. "Then maybe you haven't seen the right ones." Her throat tightened. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust that steady gaze, but her whole life had taught her kindness came with a hidden chain. So she asked the question, clawing at her chest. "What do you want from me, from us?" The man walked slowly toward the fire, his steps steady. He crouched down across from her, the flames casting shadows across his scarred face. "I don't want your body. I don't want your chains. I don't want your shame. I want you alive. I want her alive." He nodded toward the sleeping child. The mother bit her lip hard. "But why risk yourself? The market will hunt you. They'll call you a thief. You'll lose everything." His jaw tightened. For a long time he didn't answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was edged with steel. "I've already lost everything." The words cut through her like a blade. He looked back into the fire, and in the flickering light she saw something in his eyes. An old wound. A shadow he carried. "You had a family," she whispered. He didn't deny it. He didn't confirm either. His silence was heavier than truth. The mother's chest ached. She hugged herself tighter. The warmth of the fire unable to fight the chill inside her bones. She wanted to ask more, to know who he had been before the scars, before the silence. But fear held her tongue. Instead, she whispered, "I don't trust you." His eyes flicked back to hers. "Good," he said. "Don't trust anyone too quickly. But watch what they do, not what they say." The firelight danced between them. The little girl stirred in her sleep, murmuring something softly. The man's eyes softened as he watched her, but his hand never strayed far from his rifle. The mother felt something unfamiliar, a war inside her chest. Fear still screamed, warning her this was too good, too dangerous. But another voice, quiet, whispered that maybe, just maybe, this man meant what he said. She lay down again, staring at the ceiling. Sleep pulled at her, but her mind spun with questions. What secret grief did he carry? Why had he chosen them out of all the lost souls in the market? And how long before the market came knocking on his door? As her eyes drifted shut, she thought she heard him whisper something. Words too soft to catch fully. Not again. Her breath caught, but before she could ask, sleep claimed her. The fire burned low. The girl slept. The mother dreamed of warmth she feared would vanish by dawn. And the human kept watch, eyes hard, finger resting near his weapon, as if he knew the night itself was only holding its breath before trouble arrived. The sun had barely touched the horizon when the first noise reached them. Distant footsteps. Heavy and many. The human had been awake all night, standing guard by the door. His sharp ears caught it before the mother stirred. He moved to the window, peering between wooden shutters. Dust rose from the road, kicked up by boots and hooves. They were coming. The mother sat up suddenly, sensing the tension in his frame. Fear slammed into her chest like a hammer. Who is it?" The man's voice was calm but hard. "Market men, traders, 10, maybe more." Her blood ran cold. She scrambled to the bed where her daughter slept. The little girl stirred, blinking groggily. "Mama." The mother pulled her close, trembling. "They've come for us." The pounding of fists soon rattled the cabin door. "Open up," a voice barked. Rough, cruel, familiar, the same laughter from the market night. "You have what belongs to us," the girl whimpered. The mother held her tight, shaking. Her eyes darted to the human. He didn't flinch. He picked up his rifle, checked the chamber with steady hands, then leaned it against the wall within reach. He opened the door halfway, enough for light to slice into the room but not enough to let them in. His tall frame blocked the gap completely. "What do you want?" His voice was steady, flat. The merchant at the front sneered, his fat face glistening with sweat. "You know what we want." The alien woman and her brat. Property doesn't walk away, not without a price. The man's eyes didn't move. "They're not property." Laughter exploded from the group. One spat on the ground. Another lifted a chain, shaking it so the iron links clattered like bones. They were on our market ground, one snarled. That makes them ours. You don't get to change the rules, human. The human's jaw tightened. He leaned forward, voice sharp as a blade. Then your rules are broken. The crowd's mood shifted, murmurs turning to shouts, shouts to anger. They weren't used to resistance, especially not from a human. The mother clutched her child tighter. She whispered desperately, "Please don't fight them. They'll kill you. They'll kill us all." The man turned his head slightly, his gaze finding hers for a single heartbeat. Calm, unshaken. "No, they won't." The crowd pushed closer, hands on blades, on whips. One man lunged forward, trying to shove the door wider. In a blur, the human slammed it shut and threw the bolt across. His voice boomed through the wood. "This house is mine. Step 1 foot inside and it's your grave." The silence that followed was sharp and heavy. For a moment, even the wind seemed to stop. Then came the laughter again, cruel and mocking. "He thinks he can fight all of us." But behind their laughter was hesitation. Humans were rare, but they were feared. Stories painted them as wild animals that never backed down, that tore through chains and enemies alike. The mother held her breath. The child buried her face in her blanket, trembling. The human didn't move from the door. His stance was a wall, unyielding. His voice cut through the rising noise outside. "You see a woman to use, a child to sell. I see people. And if you want them, you go through me." The crowd roared in fury, but none stepped forward yet. The weight of his words hung heavy in the air. Inside, the mother's eyes filled with tears. No one had ever spoken for her. No one had ever stood like a wall between her and the world. The little girl peeked up, whispering into the silence, her voice small but fierce. "Mama, he won't let them take us." The mother pressed her face into her daughter's hair, tears streaming freely now. She wanted to believe. She needed to believe. Outside, the crowd shifted, restless. Chains clattered, boots stamped, but none crossed the line of the doorway. The human kept his hand near the rifle, his body relaxed but ready. His eyes were fire in the half-light. Finally, the fat merchant snarled, "This isn't the end, human. You can't protect them forever." The man didn't blink. "Then we'll see how long forever lasts." The traders cursed, spat, shouted threats. But slowly, step by step, they pulled back. The sound of boots faded into distance. The dust settled again. Silence returned. The man lowered his hand from the rifle but didn't put it away. His eyes stayed on the road long after the men were gone. The mother's chest heaved with every breath. She hadn't realized she was holding her daughter so tightly until the girl whispered, "Mama, I can breathe." She loosened her grip, her hands shaking. She looked at the human, this stranger who had stood against many for them, and for the first time she whispered the words that had never crossed her lips before. "Thank you." The man didn't answer. He only turned back to the door, bolting it tight again. But in the corner of his mouth, just for a moment, a shadow of something almost like a smile appeared. The cabin was quiet again, but the silence felt heavier than before. The mother sat close to the fire, her daughter curled safely in her lap. Outside, the road stretched empty, yet the echoes of the trader's threats clung to the walls like smoke. The human stood by the window, eyes sharp, body tense. He had not rested even after the market men left. He watched the horizon as if expecting them to return with more. The mother could not stop trembling. Her whole life she had known fear, but never like this. Fear of chains, fear of hunger, fear of men's laughter, yes. But fear for him? That was new. Finally, she whispered, "You can't keep this up. They'll be back. Maybe with 20, maybe with 50. You'll die protecting us." The man turned slowly. His eyes locked on hers, calm, steady. "Then I die standing. Better than living while watching cruelty win." Her chest tightened. She wanted to argue, to tell him he was a fool, but the words stuck in her throat. The little girl stirred, tugging at his coat that still covered her small frame. "Don't die," she mumbled sleepily. "You said you'd keep us." The human crouched, meeting her eyes. For once, his hard gaze softened. He touched her hair gently. "I will, no matter what." The child smiled faintly, then pressed her face back into her mother's chest. The mother blinked away tears. "Why us? You could have walked away. You could have let them take us." His voice came low, firm, unshaken. "Because I'm human. And being human means not looking away when someone begs for life." Her lips parted. The words sank deep into her bones, shattering years of lies. Her people had called humans monsters, yet here was one who defined his very identity not by strength or greed but by mercy. The night dragged on. Hours passed. No traders returned. The stars glimmered above, distant and uncaring. But inside the cabin, warmth held steady. When dawn came, the mother opened her eyes to find the man still awake, still watching. She rose quietly, careful not to wake her daughter. "You can't guard forever," she said softly. He looked at her. "No, but I can guard as long as it takes." She swallowed, then asked the question she had never dared before. "And after that? What happens when we're safe? When they stop chasing?" For a moment, silence hung. The fire cracked, filling the air with faint sparks. The man finally answered. "Then you choose. You go your way or you stay." Her breath caught. Choice. No one had ever given her one. Her whole life had been chains, bargains, survival. And now, choice. She looked at her daughter, still wrapped in his coat, breathing peacefully. The girl had never known safety before this man. She had never known a father's shadow, a hand to guard her. The mother's lips trembled. "If we stay." "What are we to you?" The man's gaze did not falter. His answer came with quiet certainty. "Family." The word broke her. Tears spilled hot down her cheeks, her body shaking. She pressed a hand over her mouth, choking back sobs. The little girl stirred again, half asleep, whispering, "Mama, can we stay with him?" "Forever." The mother's chest ached. She looked at the man, this human who had risked everything for them without asking a single price, and for the first time she let herself believe. She knelt down, bowing her head. "If you'll have us, then yes. We'll stay." The human stepped forward, lifting her chin gently so her eyes met his. Not as debt, not as chains. As family. Her tears did not stop, but for once they were not born of despair. The child crawled into his arms without hesitation. He held her carefully as if she were made of glass, yet steady enough to shield her from the whole world. The girl smiled, whispering against his chest, "We're safe now." The mother joined them, placing her trembling hand against his arm. For the first time in years, she felt something solid beneath her fingers, something unbreakable, not chains. Not ownership. Not fear, a choice, a promise, a family. Outside, the sun rose bright, scattering shadows across the land. The market men would talk. They would threaten. They might even return. But inside the cabin, 3 lives had already changed forever. And for the first time, the mother dared to believe in a future where her daughter would never again have to beg for warmth in the cold. Because a human had chosen them. Because a human had walked away from cruelty. Because a human had said the word family.